Hey, yesterday I didn't put a label on that video. Today, this video is going to be T2 week 6 day 2. Okay, T2 week 6 day 2. And that's going to be the video, that's going to be what we're doing today. All right, real quick, remember that perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals. Okay, and sorry, it's an R, and it is what it is. All right. So perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals. Okay, now that's important. So if I told you one slope was 3/2, negative 2/3 is the negative reciprocal. If I told you one slope was negative 4, which you don't forget is 4/1, then the negative reciprocal would be positive 1/4. Okay, so perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals. So what we need to see is we want to find a line that is perpendicular, and see that perpendicular sign? It looks like a fraction, right? It's a big hint you're gonna flip your fraction over. So we're gonna find a line perpendicular to y equals negative 3x plus 5 that goes through the point negative 9, 15. Okay? Hey, our friend point slope form, again, is what we want to be using here. Okay? Point slope form is what we want to be using here, because y minus y1, there's y1, equals slope. Well, we're going to get the slope from here in our perpendicular rules times x minus x1, and there's x1 right there. So look, let's see, y minus y1 is 15, so we can just do y minus 15. Now remember, this slope here is negative 3, which is negative 3/1. So the perpendicular slope, see when it makes a fraction, flips the fraction, is positive 1/3. So the slope we put in that's perpendicular is positive 1/3. We get x minus, and since x1 is negative 9, it's negative 9, which gives us y minus 15 equals 1/3 x. Negative times negative makes positive 9. And now we just follow the math. 1/3 of x. What's 1/3 of 9? That's 3. Good. And then we add 15 to both sides. And y equals 1/3 x plus 18. And look, none of this is super hard. You guys just don't want to do all these steps. And hey, I was your age once. I didn't want to do all these steps, but they're required. Those of you that are still just skipping steps, you're seeing your scores go down lately. I need y'all to really work and focus on this stuff, okay? This next problem, we want to identify slope. Okay, we want to identify slope, and we want to identify y-intercept, the y-intercept, the x-intercept, and of course what we call the zero for the problem. And the zero is wherever something crosses the x-axis, which, if you'll remember in a minute, it's the same as the x-intercept. So I'm going to give you y equals negative 5/4x plus 10. Okay? And what we're going to do here is we can look at the graph if we want. If we want to graph this thing, it's going to cross at 10. This tells us that. We can go down 5/4, down 5/4, and find out that we're going to cross at 8. And the line is doing something like this. Okay. So if we do that real quick, I mean, of course you can do it with a calculator, we have all the answers we're looking for. Slope, well, that's right here. M is slope, so slope is -5/4. Since this is the y-axis, this is our y-intercept. Y-intercept we can write as 10. We can write it y equals 10, or we can write it as 0, 10. You just have to identify up front that you're dealing with the y-intercept. Then, of course, we have the x-intercept. Okay, the x-intercept is right here at 8, or we could write it as x equals 8, or we could write it as 8, 0, and that's a bad 0, and it's, won't let me erase. And in any one of those, as long as we identify that we're dealing with the x-intercept, we'll take care of it. The last part's really simple. The 0, as we call it, which is also, no, there's other things for it, but if we ask for the zeros, we want to know where, basically, where is y0? That is what asking for a 0 means. And the 0 is at x equals 8. And this is where algebra is confusing, so hopefully you'll listen real close and understand, okay? X equals 8 can mean this, and x equal 8 can also mean that. X equals 8 can also answer a different problem. In algebra, there's so many different ways that different things mean, well, different things. And so I don't want you to rack your head over it too much. I just want you to recognize, just write what you see, write what you know. You're gonna be successful at this. Y'all, make sure you're also taking great notes, because like I told you, on all of our Friday exams, from little mini exams from now on, we're always going to let you use your notes. Now, you cannot use them on district exams, but we're going to keep letting you use them on the little Friday exams, okay? Let's do this one real quick. There's some stuff to recognize. Let's find a line, okay, that's parallel, that is not an L, parallel to y equals -4x plus 7. That goes through the point 0, -3. Okay, we're going to look at what 0, -3 means real quick. 0, -3. Can you tell me what else that is besides just some regular point? If I had a line that went through this point, that would also be called the, if you said y-intercept, that is brilliant. And if you didn't, then memorize it. Well, hey, if this is my y-intercept, remembering that parallel slopes, see, this is the symbol for parallel, which looks an awful lot like an equal sign. Well, parallel slopes are equal. So I need to take that -4 because it's a parallel slope. Oh, hey, I already know that -3 is my y-intercept. One of the easiest problems you're going to have all year if you'll just practice it and just apply it. It'll be one of the easiest problems you have this year if you give it the time it deserves. Okay, I'm going to rough sketch a graph real quick here for us. All right, let's say we've got 10, 20, 30, and 40. And let's say we've got 5, 10, 15, and 20. Okay. So let's say we got a bunch of dots doing this, okay? Now, we can see a couple things here, and so I'm going to use some of my other markers to show you what's happening. First off, there's not a single line that goes through all these points, all right? And you can blow this picture up if you need to. But notice that if I look at the bulk of these points, they create a fat line that goes up to the right. Okay, so there's two things we got to learn about this. The first thing we're going to learn is that what we should do is draw a rough line that goes somewhere right down the middle of all of these dots. So if it asks me, what is the value of y when x equals 20? Well, I follow 20 up to the line. I follow it over here. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be a multiple choice question. They're going to say A, y equals 15, B, y equals 9, C, y equals 5, or D, y equals 11. Okay. Obviously, if you look at the way we drew this graph, it's closest to 9, and they're going to give you a number that's not, it's going to be obvious if you just follow this up and over. Likewise, you can follow the 30 up to that rough line and see that's somewhere between 12 and 13. And you can follow 40 up, and then you can see it's somewhere around 16, 17. You can follow 10 up and see it hits somewhere around 5. So that's one of the little lessons we need here. The other, I'm going to redraw this. The other lesson we have to talk about is something called correlation coefficient. If we have a set of dots that are really close together like this, a correlation coefficient it actually tells us how strong the relationship is between those dots, how strong of a linear relationship we have with those dots. Now, this is almost a super, super tight line. Almost every dot here touches that line. This means our correlation coefficient here, and you don't have to calculate it. The calculator will do it, and I'll show you in a second. This is a very strong and positive correlation coefficient. All the dots are close together. It's obviously almost a straight line. That's going to be a strong positive. You know what else? This is spread out a little bit more. That's also going to be a strong positive, because even though you can outline it pretty good, these are pretty much in a straight line. So these are what we call strong positive correlations. So I'm going to show you the other ones. If you saw something like this, you might not be completely sure what it's doing, but I can show you that there's still a slight positive going on here. This is what we call a weak positive correlation. Likewise, if you had something like this, you can see that this thing is sort of linear and spread out, and it's moving downward. This is a weak negative correlation. Now, I know this is kind of hard to talk about. This is one of those things that you're going to have one question on a test in the middle of the year, and then you're going to have one question on the star about it. But it's important, and it's super easy to pick this stuff up. So if I showed you this, would you call that positive or negative? It's going up, so positive. If you think that's strong, you think it's weak. Well, if you said strong, you'd be right, because the lines are pretty close together. Okay? What if I gave you this? Would be negative, and it would be weak. All right, so let me give you the steps. By the way, inside the Go Formative Day 2 practice this week, I literally on one of the problems listed all these steps. There's a bunch of calculator steps you got to deal with, and I'm going to write them down. You need to, in the TI calculator that we give you for free, you need to press mode, and then you need to arrow down to something called Stat Diagnostics. Now remember, the more stuff you put in your notes, the more notes you get to use on the Friday exams, just not the district assessments. So mode, arrow down to stat diagnostics, arrow over to on, and press enter. And this turns on a stat diagnostic. From here, you'll know everything else we need to do. So let's say you have an X and a Y, and the X is 0, 1, -3, 3, -5, and I don't know, -80, -40, 16, 12, and -15. I don't really care how this turns out. I don't want you to put this in the calculator. What I'm saying is you put your data in the calculator again by going to stat, and you hit enter. And remember, all the X's go in L1 and all of the Y's go in L2. And they go in this exact order. The calculator will sort it out for you. After you do stat, enter, and you enter these letters, you're going to go back to stat. You're going to arrow right to calculate. Anybody know what we're going to run? A number 4 lin reg for linear regression. Okay, at this point, if you just hit number 4, or after you click on this, you will hit enter 5 times. Okay, and after you hit enter 5 times, we're going to get back to, I know you can pause the video, so I want to erase. After you hit enter 5 times, you're going to come to the screen that says, A equals, I'm just going to make up numbers, 5. B equals -3 for AX plus B. This is how you would build the equation. This is all going to be written there. And then it's going to say R squared. And it's going to give you some point blah, blah, blah number. And then it's going to say R equals. This R is your correlation coefficient. That R at the bottom is your correlation coefficient. Now, you can graph the points if you want and make your best guess from the stuff I just taught you, which is cool. It's fine by me. But sometimes it's got like 16 or 18 points, and that takes a long time to graph. You still have to put them in. So if you put them in, you can evaluate. You have to put in every point they give you. You leave out even one point, and it can throw the correlation coefficient off so much you can move from strong to weak. You can move from positive to negative, just leaving out one single point. And here's the general rule, okay? Correlation coefficients run from, they run from -1.0 to +1.0. Of course, what's in the middle? 0. Okay. Now here's the rule that you need to remember. Right about here at -0.8. Anything from here to here, so anything from -0.8 to -0.1, which is -0.9, -0.95, -0.86, anything there is strong, and because it's negative, it's strong negative. Same thing with that number 0.8 over here. Anything from +0.8 to +0.1, +0.81, 83, 0.89, 0.90, 0.99. Any of this stuff, did you guess it yet? Strong positive. Now, they're not going to give you a number like 0.78. That's too ambiguous. But just know that these are the ranges for strong. Any number that lies in here is either going to be weak negative or weak positive. And when you take statistics or AP statistics, we expand on this a whole lot. So what you're going to need to do is whatever table of data they give you, you're going to put it in the calculator and you're going to follow these steps. Okay, hey, that's it for day 2. I know it's a long video, but that last thing takes about 10 minutes to explain. Hope you take good notes, and I hope to see you soon.